Hey everyone! So today we are diving deep into one of the most direct, most confrontational chapters in the Psalms. See, Psalm 14 makes this incredibly bold claim that has just echoed through the centuries. It argues that a single, dangerous lie whispered in the heart is actually the root of all human corruption. So let's unpack what that lie is and why the Bible calls it so incredibly dangerous. And there it is. The psalm doesn't ease you in. It just throws down the gauntlet with this unbelievably blunt statement. Now, this isn't just some dusty old quote. It's the absolute core idea we're going to be exploring, the direct, unbreakable link between what a person truly believes about God and how they ultimately live their life. Okay, so let's really break this down. The key word here is obviously fool, but you gotta understand, in a biblical sense, it doesn't mean what we think it means today. It has nothing to do with intelligence. And this is so important to get. The Bible isn't talking about how smart you are. A person could be a certified genius, top of their class, and still be considered a fool in this context. See, it's not about what's in your head, but what's in your heart. It's about a moral choice to rebel and to willfully reject God's authority over your life. And this kind of foolishness, it actually shows up in a couple of different ways. On the one hand, you've got explicit denial. That's someone who's loud and proud about it, openly stating their disbelief. But then, and this is probably way more common, you have what we could call practical denial. This is the person who might even say they believe in God, but their actions, their choices, their entire way of life proves they are living as if he just doesn't exist. It's this deep down conviction that God has no real say over their life. Okay, so that's the view from down here on earth. But the psalmist immediately flips the camera, right? It pivots from the human declaration to God's perspective. We now look up to see heaven's verdict on the state of all humanity. Seriously, try to get this image in your head. This is not some passive, lazy glance. The picture we get here is of an active, really intentional investigation. The creator of the universe is leaning down, looking closely at every single person.
And what he finds? Man, the verdict is just staggering in its scope. After searching everyone, God's conclusion is universal. It is total. Everyone has turned away. Everyone has become corrupt. This is so foundational that the Apostle Paul actually quotes this very passage in Romans chapter 3 to build his case for why all of us need salvation. And it ends with that devastating phrase, "There is none that doeth good, no, not one."
Yeah, just let that number sink in for a second. 0. From God's perfectly holy point of view, the number of people who, on their own, naturally seek him and do what is genuinely good is none. Now, that's a tough pill to swallow for sure, but it's the bedrock for understanding the whole Christian idea of grace and why we need a savior in the first place. So you might be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? What really happens when a person, or even a whole culture, starts living by this idea that there is no God to answer to? Well, the Psalm shows us the consequences aren't just philosophical. They're deeply practical and incredibly harmful. I mean, think about it. If you truly believe there is no ultimate authority, no final judgment, no cosmic standard for right and wrong, how is that going to shape the way you treat other people? Well, the answer the Psalm gives is, frankly, it's shocking. The result is this casual, almost nonchalant cruelty. The wicked devour God's people as casually as they eat a sandwich. And the psalmist points to the root cause right there. They call not upon the Lord. It's a direct line. Their failure to acknowledge God leads directly to their ability to hurt others without even blinking. But right here, when it seems like everything is just dark and bleak, the psalm slams on the brakes and takes this massive, dramatic turn. The very people who were so arrogant, so confident in their godless world, are about to have a shocking run-in with reality. After all this talk of corruption and arrogance, the whole story is about to get flipped completely on its head, in an instant. And bam! Suddenly, these are the exact same people, and they are hit with terror. A great fear just grabs them. The confidence they had, which was totally built on a lie, it just shatters. But why? I mean, what could possibly scare people who think they're accountable to absolutely no one? Yeah, why? This is the million-dollar question of the whole psalm. What is the source of this sudden terror that just blows up their entire worldview? And here it is. The reason for their fear is this sudden, terrifying realization that they were wrong.
God isn't some distant idea. He's real, he is present, and he is actively standing with his people. The very God they said didn't exist turns out to be the defender of the very people they were devouring.
And that brings us to the final part of the psalm, and thankfully, it's a hopeful one. Now that the lie has been exposed and we've seen its consequences, the psalmist shows us where to find real security and real hope. You know, the world loves to mock people who trust in God, right? They'll say faith is just a crutch for the weak. But what this psalm shows us is that in a world built on the dangerous lie of God's absence, faith isn't a crutch. It's the only solid ground there is. The Lord is their refuge, their fortress. So, what are we supposed to do with all this? Well, Psalm 14 doesn't just point out the problem. It gives us a clear, four-step path to the solution. First, you've got to acknowledge the verdict, that we all need God. Then, do the exact opposite of the wicked. Call upon the Lord. From there, you learn to trust him as your true refuge. And finally, that allows you to live with a real hope for his ultimate salvation. And so, it all comes down to this one powerful question for you and for me. Psalm 14, it's not just some ancient song. It's like a mirror forcing us to make a choice. When the world all around you is living as if God doesn't exist, where are you going to find your refuge?
And just so you know, our deep dive today was based on material from the You Need Faith in Jesus team.
All right, to really make these powerful truths stick, I really hope you'll check out the flashcards to go over the key ideas we talked about. And when you feel ready, take the quiz to lock it all in and complete the lesson. Thanks so much for joining me.